What's going on, Airsofters? My name's Matt, and you can probably already tell what this video is going to be about based upon the title, but I've been holding off on making this video for a little while now because I thought that maybe all of this would ultimately blow over or get sorted out, but unfortunately it's looking like that's not going to be the case. As of now, like so many other gun-related channels on YouTube, we have more or less lost ad revenue from our videos. Thankfully, the livelihood of this channel does not hinge on the ad revenue that it makes from its videos, but it did help out a great deal with a lot of the team's expenses for things like ammo, new equipment, etc. So don't worry guys, we're still going to continue to upload videos, we're still here, we're not going anywhere. However, for a lot of other smaller, upcoming and newer channels out there, I fear that this might be pretty detrimental to them because, again, thankfully, while this channel isn't dependent on the money it makes, a lot of channels on YouTube that do produce the same kind of content that we do are dependent on the money, so I can only imagine what those guys are going through right now. What a lot of other channels are doing is moving over to Patreon where they can get fan funding. We are still kind of on the fence about whether or not we should make one ourselves, but that is an option for us at the moment we'll be looking into. I wanted to make this video not to show you that YouTube has decided to demonetize gun-related channels, that's kind of just a given at this point, but to show you that they aren't really being honest or even fair for that matter with their policies. Now before I even say anything, I just want to be clear that I really do love YouTube. I've been making videos since 2012 and our team has been together since that same time period, actually a little bit earlier than that. And YouTube has given us, like so many others, a great platform to showcase their videos. It has, I believe, brought the airsoft community closer by giving airsofters a platform to showcase all of their information, knowledge, and entertainment for us to watch, therefore bringing us closer. And for that, I am genuinely grateful. However, this doesn't mean we can't be critical of YouTube when we believe that they have made some mistakes that we want to be addressed. And that's precisely the point of this video. Not entirely to bash on YouTube, but to bring these issues to light and show you guys what's really going on. And to be honest, I'm actually kind of disappointed because the whole idea of YouTube forever was that if you had a good idea and could make some good videos, YouTube would support you and provide you with a platform of free speech to express your thoughts, ideas, and actions all in video form. However, now I feel as though they have shifted away from that principle and are more interested in catering to their major advertisers rather than their own audience. I will make the point though that YouTube is in fact a business, and as such they have to make money and can make whatever rules that they want because at the end of the day this is their platform and they are allowing us to use it. Essentially we are in their house as guests. Again though, I don't think that they are being entirely honest with their own policies that they've set forth that heavily restrict their own content creators. But getting into the topic at hand here, there's basically two problems that gun-related content creators are having. There's the restricted mode issue and the advertiser-friendly content issue. This all has happened more or less in the first place because YouTube lost some of their major advertisers such as Verizon and AT&T. In an attempt to prevent more from leaving, they essentially buckled down on their already vague guidelines and started targeting all kinds of quote-unquote politically incorrect channels. I've seen this range from upcoming new media channels to right-leaning political points of view channels to even video gamers and vloggers who have sometimes a questionable view or opinion on things. The problem I have is not only is this clearly an attempt to make the politically incorrect and controversial content go away to, appease our advertisers, but the fact that this really hurts new upcoming channels. Because for channels to thrive, you need to make an encouraging environment for them to do so in. But instead, YouTube has decided it's either conform to these rules or too bad. Now before we begin, I would just like to note that the restricted mode issue and the advertiser-friendly content issue aren't exactly the same issue, and they've kind of got their own guidelines for each sort of thing. But they're kind of the same thing in the sense of how they judge you as to whether or not you're going to be on the restricted mode list or the not advertiser friendly list. You'll see what I'm talking about as we get more in depth with this. As per YouTube's definition, restricted mode is an optional setting that you can use to help screen out potentially mature content that you may prefer not to see or don't want others in your family to see. We may use signals such as video title, description, metadata, community guidelines, reviews, and age restrictions to identify and filter out potentially mature content. So basically what this is saying is that YouTube has created a type of filter to help obviously filter out potentially inappropriate content. The problem is, what do we define as inappropriate content? And this is where the problem arises. So here's a list of content that YouTube put together that is deemed to be not advertiser friendly. And this I found is essentially more or less the exact same list that they use to judge whether or not your channel gets put into restricted mode. YouTube is again kind of vague on how restricted mode and advertiser-friendly content interact, but I've basically come to the conclusion that if you are put into restricted mode, you now have a higher likelihood of not having content that's eligible for monetization. This is pretty much based on the fact that it looks like they're using the exact same guidelines more or less to determine each area. I'd also like to state that I'm certainly not an end-all expert when it comes to this kind of stuff, so I may be not 100% correct on all the details, but if someone knows something I don't know or can correct me, please feel free to leave a comment below because I'm as eager to know what's going on as you guys are. So if you look at the last one, controversial or sensitive subjects and events including subjects related to war, political conflicts, natural disasters, and tragedies, even if graphic imagery is not shown. This is where I think we start to have major issues, because what do we define as subjects related to war or political conflicts? What do you define as war? Are we talking about airsoft battles, paintball battles, little backyard skirmishes? Could we even go as far to say that video games like Call of Duty or Battlefield, like first-person shooters, they are subjects related to war? Surely, are those videos, according to this list, content that is considered not advertiser-friendly? And the list itself is actually very vague, and you can't really actually narrow down or pin down specifically what content may be judged as inappropriate. I mean, this is such an umbrella term on so many different topics, you really don't know what they want or don't want. So it's really kind of just a guessing game at this point. So what makes me so convinced that YouTube has essentially put the topic of guns underneath the large umbrella of war-related topics? Well, allow me to show you. So here's a screenshot of all of our videos that are available in restricted mode. All 3 of them. As of May 2017, as I make this video, we have 212 videos on the channel, and only 3 of them are available in restricted mode. Now, why is restricted mode even a problem in the first place? Well, if you're actually in restricted mode, as in you have it enabled, and you search a channel that has been put into the classification of restricted or inappropriate, your channel won't come up, or any of your videos that are put into restricted mode won't come up, even if they are directly typed into the search bar. Your videos also can't be used at places such as schools, libraries, or even military bases for that matter. So if you think about our content a little bit, what could potentially be deemed in our videos as inappropriate, not family friendly? So you guys will probably say something along the lines of you occasionally swear every now and then, or you maybe make some inappropriate jokes, what have you. Now, I will admit that it does happen on occasion, but it certainly does not happen in every single one of our videos. In fact, I'll even say that it doesn't even occur all that often at all. Other than that, I honestly can't think of anything on our channel that I could potentially be viewed as family inappropriate. So then you say, okay, what's the common trend throughout all of our videos? And that would be the topic of airsoft. And airsoft, or even airsoft guns for that matter, according to YouTube, are just as bad as real steel firearms because, well, they look like real steel firearms. To prove my point, here are just a handful of gun-related YouTube channels that have made videos saying that they have been put into restricted mode or demonetized just purely upon the fact that they do gun-related content. The first YouTube channel we have on the list is Tfbtv, and they recently made a video called YouTube Gun Channels Are in Danger. And if you watch any of their videos, there is nothing in them that could be even considered as not advertiser friendly. There's no blood, no swearing, no anything violent other than the topic of guns. But because of that one single topic, YouTube has deemed them to be not advertiser friendly. Heck, half their videos aren't even them shooting guns, they're just talking about the very guns themselves. This just goes to prove my point that YouTube has basically put the topic of firearms underneath the umbrella of war-related topics because, well, guns are used in war, i.e. guns are war-related topics, right? They're basically using this massive umbrella term that is, quote-unquote, war-related topics to stretch out and grab anything firearm-related. See, they don't even have to be shooting the guns for the content to be inappropriate. They just have to merely mention and talk about the firearms. Which reminds me, our entire Q&A series is not viewable in restricted mode. And we aren't even shooting real guns or even interacting with airsoft guns for that matter. We're just answering viewers' comment questions on a topic that I don't even know could even be possibly stretched to be defined as war-related content. Military Arms Channel actually made a video very recently about this very same topic. And again, he has nothing inappropriate on his channel. No swearing, no cursing, no nothing like that that could be considered family inappropriate. Again, we see the common trend of guns, therefore demonetized. One of the worst examples I was actually able to find was Demolition Ranch. Now, for those of you who do not watch Demolition Ranch, he basically just does very humorous, comedic firearm-related content. But he has a couple of channels that kind of branch off from his main channel, one of them being Off the Ranch and Vet Ranch. And in this video specifically, he talks about how his branch channels have actually been put in restricted mode and demonetized as well because they just apparently have an association with his primary channel. His branch-off channels don't even talk about firearms and stuff. They just talk about him vlogging and him being with his family or working at his veterinarian clinic. But because these channels have an association with his main channel, they've been put into restricted mode and they've been demonetized. As far as I can tell, that's basically what's been happening here. If you guys want more information, feel free to click on any one of these videos. I actually encourage you to, and they can explain their story a lot better than I can. So fine, YouTube has basically decided, okay, gun-related content is not appropriate for children, family, whatever. I will disagree with you at length with this for numerous amounts of reasons. But here's something I found that, quite frankly, I think proves my point that YouTube is not necessarily interested in making quote-unquote family-friendly or advertiser-friendly content, but rather have a driven agenda of trying to restrict and block specific content based upon what they deem appropriate. Going back to YouTube's quote-unquote content that is considered not advertiser-friendly includes inappropriate language, including harassment, profanity, and vulgar language. Keep that in mind. Also pay attention to the fifth point where it says controversial or sensitive subjects and events, because that's going to come back in a second. Philip DeFranco actually recently made a whole string of videos discussing this very topic, talking about who's been affected by this, who's been left alone, etc., etc., etc. And he goes a lot further into depth on what has happened and who's been affected than I am right here. So I encourage you, if you're interested in seeing about what else is going on, I encourage you to go watch his videos. But he brings up a very interesting point right here in this screenshot. He tells us that major news outlets channels such like Fox News, CNN, the Young Turks, they have not been affected nearly as much or have been hit nearly as hard as gun-related channels or anyone else that's really been suffering from YouTube's restriction guidelines. I will now refer you back to what I have deemed the list. The list tells us that controversial or sensitive subjects and events may not be advertiser-friendly. See, it says it right there. It's right there. Again, keep in mind that the list they use to judge whether or not your channel gets put into restricted mode is more or less, give or take, the same list that they use to judge whether or not your content is going to be advertiser friendly. Now I know what some of you are probably thinking, Matt, it's just the news, it's family friendly content. Yeah, I know, but it's on the list. And the whole point of news media is to report on what? Controversial and sensitive subjects. I mean, isn't that the news, to tell you about what's going on in the world? The other thing I literally just noticed and just sunk in with me is it also says on the list, political conflicts may not be subject to advertiser-friendly content. And then I thought about it and said, okay, well, what is political conflicts? Could that potentially mean war that's been driven by political problems? Or are we talking like literal political conflicts between like two different political parties? Because if that's the case, then pretty much 90% of the current content that's being put out by these news networks will not be advertiser-friendly. But according to what Philip DeFranco has been telling us, this is not the case. Apparently they're not doing that bad. Instead, smaller upcoming channels, or as I like to call them, new media, are the ones that are really suffering. I mean, several channels I've seen that I've been watching on YouTube have said, I need to move over to Patreon now because YouTube has taken away all my funds. So it almost seems like that these larger corporations and news outlets that have a lot of money invested into them, YouTube is just kind of leaving those alone. To prove my point, Philip DeFranco has stated himself that he has been experiencing issues with some of his videos as well. And as far as things go politically, he's a centrist. He's neither here nor there when it comes to having a political bias in his journalism. So if he's having issues, I'm sure you can imagine what other upcoming new media outlets with a different opinion are going through. Lastly, he mentions that, like major corporations such as Fox, CNN, MSN, etc., the Young Turks haven't really been experiencing an issue with being put into restricted mode. And if you have ever watched the Young Turks, you will know that they curse and drop F-bombs constantly. Again, according to the list, inappropriate language won't allow your videos to be seen in restricted mode. But apparently because it's the Young Turks, YouTube has decided to give them a free pass, demonstrating clear bias in whose content they choose to approve of. If you would like more information on this specific topic, Steven Crowder from Louder with Crowder actually dedicated an entire video to this very issue of YouTube preferring specific media outlets over others. I encourage you yourself to actually do more research on this topic if you would like more insight. I will also leave links to all the videos that I gave examples of in the description below so that you can hear it from them firsthand. Again, why am I showing you this? Well, I want to demonstrate to you that YouTube has a clear bias towards what kind of content they approve of, and they aren't even being honest with their own policies. And in the end, I honestly believe that this won't actually help YouTube, but rather hurt them in the long run, because these restrictions are impacting not only just upcoming channels, but are also forcing well-established channels as well to change up their content in order to stay advertiser-friendly and keep out of the restricted mode. Along with these groups affected, airsoft channels will also suffer because they apparently fall underneath the same restrictions that these major firearms channels are subject to. If you'd like to see for yourself, flip on restricted mode and type in your favorite Airsofters channel in the search bar and see if their channel even pops up. I'll guarantee the only thing you're going to find is just a couple of videos, like a handful of videos like you saw on our channel that have not been put into restricted mode. Other than that, you will not be able to find their channel, and the overwhelming majority of their videos will not be viewable in restricted mode. In conclusion, it appears that YouTube just simply has a distaste for the politically incorrect. Sadly, this in my opinion is a shift away from what used to be their ideals of free speech and open ideas on their platform. However, times are changing and I do understand that YouTube needs to meet a bottom line with its advertisers. But even so, these types of restrictions, I believe, shouldn't be this restrictive to the content creator, especially for us in the gun-related world. But even if these guidelines must be put into place, you need to be honest about your policies and not just use umbrella guideline terms as a tool to be able to hand-select content that you don't approve of, all the while covering up for your clear political bias towards content that you deem appropriate. Again, guys, at the end of the day, we will still be here and we will still continue to make content for you to enjoy. We never got into YouTube for the money. We do it because we enjoy it. And as long as we continue to do so, and you guys are still willing to watch our content, we will keep making videos for you guys. YouTube, we love you, and we want to see you do well as a company. But quite frankly, as a community, we feel as though you are leaving us in the dust and taking content creators for granted. Hopefully things will improve, but until then, we will just have to keep treading on. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully this video has raised some awareness and shed some light on the situation. Again, guys, I am not an expert and I openly invite you guys to correct me if I am wrong on certain points or let me know if I missed something in the comment section down below. Until then, guys, thank you all for that continued support you have provided us throughout the years, and thank you for being such a great fan base overall. We'll see you in the next one.